Hey everyone, and welcome back to our channel. My name is Kyle, and in this video, we're going to be introducing our first steps into weapon tossing, going over the basics of how to do a single, as well as how to catch a single so we can get those initial ideas out there. We're going to do tosses off of both the left and the right hand, as well as different positions of the equipment. So we'll do our regular left flat, regular right flat, and then we're going to flip it to do the mirrored version so we can feel the difference of weight with this more basic and entry-level tossing. Before we get into any of that, if you could take a second to like this video and subscribe to our channel, it would really mean a lot to us. And if you want to stay updated with anything we do in the future, go ahead and hit that bell icon down below. Anyways, with that taken care of, let's go learn how to toss our weapons. So the first thing I want to do is actually go into a little bit more detail about what we're covering in today's video. So we're going to go over how to do a single on both rifle and saber, going over the starting position, the initiation of the rotation, the release point, and the catch position for both pieces of equipment on the left hand and on the right hand. We're also going to go over the various starting positions for both our regular left and right flats, as well as the inverted version so we can feel the difference of weight and learn how to compensate for that in the approach to the release with both of our hands. So we're going to be starting in a left flat position with our feet in just a comfortable second as we learn this. The first thing you're going to do to initiate your toss is you're going to push your right hand down with a lot of energy to initiate the rotation and feel the swing on the down. Notice that when I do that, my hand stays in my spin dot, which is again that 90-degree angle out from your elbow, as it rotates. This is very similar to our initiation of our drop spin. Once your swing goes through the down space and then gets all the way back up to this outer angle right here, that is when I'm gonna let go of my rifle. Again, very similar to how we approach the drop spins. The only difference is that I'm adding a lot more energy because I am going to be adding more rotation than I did for a drop spin. So we push to feel the swing, we get it all the way to this angle, and that's when we let go. It's gonna rotate in the air, and when we go in for the catch, instead of just catching in that left hand like we did for spins, we are going to allow it to rotate over to the right hand. We're gonna see the butt come up, and we're gonna pull our right hand out to catch in a right flat position. So doing a single sends it over from the left hand and then catches in the right hand. We did something similar to this with our half flip over from left flat to right flat. Now, when we're going in for the release, we're going to release at this upper angle right here. It's gonna rotate around through the down space in the air and go back up one more time with the butt. When I see the butt go up again, that's when I'm gonna start to reach out with my right hand to go in for the catch. And that's how I know how much it has rotated. So we push the swing, we go up to this angle right here, we let go of it, it rotates through the down space, comes up one more time, and then I'm gonna go into my catch on a right flat. Putting that all together, I go push up, squeeze, and that will give me my full single. One thing I want you to be aware of is that I am pushing first, and then I am twisting that left wrist. So I'm starting in this neutral position right here. It pushes, my wrist starts to twist, and then I pull it all the way to this release point right here, which is when I let go. So be careful that you don't pull before you're able to push. You want to get the energy that you need first by pushing the rifle, and then you can flick that wrist at the very end when you go to let go of the rifle to get you your extra rotation. Notice the butt is up once on the release, and then up one more time before the catch. So I'll see it go up twice before I catch that single. Up, up, squeeze. And that's how I know I have a full single. Doing it on the right side is gonna be the exact same approach. You're just gonna have a little bit of different feel in terms of weight because you're closer to the heavier part of the gun. But essentially you start in the same right flat position. You initiate by pushing to feel the swing. It gets up to this upper angle right here. I give a quick flick in my wrist at the very top. The nose this time is gonna be what I gauge this off of on this side. The nose will go up once on the release, pass through that down space, go up one more time before my left hand goes in to find that catch position at a left flat. So putting that all together, I go push up, up, squeeze. and that's how I know I have a full single. When you're first learning this, feel free to make this super lofty and super slow by lifting it up into the air so you can see that rotation in slow down timing. But the ultimate goal over time as you get better at this is to keep this nice and low and almost think of it staying below your chin on the release. So that way it can be a nice tight single and you're not compensating a lot of height and then ultimately having a lot of issues when you go for your higher tosses in the future. Now, real quick, I want to go over the inverted versions on rifle. So start in your left flat position, but take your rifle and flip it over to where it's in the same right flat placement, but you're holding the left hand under and right hand over. The approach of this is the exact same. You initiate with that push to feel the swing. You get up to that upper angle right before you pull that flick at the very end of the release. The nose will go up on this side since I'm leading with the nose, down once, up one more time, and then I'll catch in my right hand. The only difference is the weight is gonna feel different because now my left hand has the heavier part, which was not the same over here. So we find that push, release, squeeze. Again, the exact same approach, just a difference in weight. And then same on this side, I push to swing, get up to that upper angle, release, and then I can squeeze on the other side. Now I want to go over what this looks like on Sabre, and in terms of the order of events and the approach that you take, it's going to be fairly similar. Obviously, there's a little bit of a difference in weight, so you have to account for that, but there is one big difference between rifle and Sabre that I have to make sure we acknowledge when you're trying to apply it on tossing. So we're gonna start in that left flat position like we did with rifle. Again, we initiate with that push of the right hand to feel the swing. Instead of waiting for the tip of the Sabre to get all the way to this upper angle, I'm actually gonna wait until it gets to flats. The reason for this is because of the weight of the Sabre. We're at the very edge of this equipment. So if I was to wait until I get all the way up to the angle, I would actually send it a little bit too far over and end up catching like this, as opposed to being able to catch for that catch tape on the end of the Sabre. The reason for that is because if I wait here, then I'm allowing the weight, the heavier part of the Sabre, to travel a little bit more over. Whereas if I released at that flat, the tip kind of counterbalances that, and then it'll land in the center of my body. So when you're releasing hilt tosses from the left side, or from the left hand, it's gonna feel like it's spinning on the left side of your body. That is a correct feeling when it comes to Sabre technique. So difference on the hilt toss specifically is going to be releasing at that flat instead of releasing at the angle. Everything else still applies though. I find that push to feel the swing, I flick at the end, which is that release point. The tip is gonna be the thing I reference on this side. It goes up once on the release, goes up one more time in the air, and then I'll reach in to go in for that catch position at right flat. So putting that together, I go push and squeeze, and then there's my right flat. For the other side, it's going to be the same as rifle. Because I have that hilt swinging around, I'm actually gonna let it go all the way up to the upper angle before I find that release to go up and squeeze, and then the hilt will naturally take itself over to the correct side of the Sabre. I do not want it to stay over there because then we'll catch something like this if I released at that flat. So allow it to go up to that angle and then go into the release of that flat position. Or sorry, release of that normal single. And then to cover the inverted versions, I'm gonna go to my left flat position and then I'm gonna switch my Sabre over. So my left hand is still under, but I'm at the blade instead of the hilt. I'm gonna initiate with that push. Remember, when I'm pulling the single out from the blade, I'm gonna allow it to go all the way up to the angle so the hilt can go around. I find that upper angle, release, the hilt goes up once, up twice, and then I catch at that flat position on right flat. Now doing it on this side, this is gonna be that same technique of releasing at the flat position so it stays on the right side of my body in this case. Go up, release flat, and then squeeze so that way I can catch in a flat position. The goal of catching flat is going to be making sure that you keep the release point at flat. If you're doing a different type of toss that doesn't require you to catch flat, then the approach may be different. But if you're just trying to catch flat with your hands spread apart, you want to make sure that you're keeping it spinning on the left side of your body as much as possible. So you guys may be trying this and you may notice that your equipment is not really traveling to the place that you need it to go into a regular catch position. You may see it kind of stay over on the side of your body, or you may see it kind of go a little bit too far over to the right, and it might be making it a bit difficult for you to get the single. There's a couple things that you need to be aware of in terms of avoiding this as you're learning this exercise, or this skill more so. When we talked about the release point, on rifle specifically, we talked about letting it all the way to the angle before we let go of the rifle. If I released at a flat position like we do on Sabre, the weight of the rifle is not gonna take it around. It's actually gonna keep it over there. And it's gonna be a lot harder for me to go into my catch. So I wanna make sure I wait until I get all the way to this upper angle position before I let go, so it can properly travel over. Same applies for this side. If I release at that flat, we see that it kind of stays over there, and it's a lot harder to go in for the catch. So I wanna make sure that I allow it to get all the way up to this angle right here, and then let go of the rifle, adding that quick wrist rotation at the very end. Another thing too is where you are in space with that release hand. Be careful not to kind of scoop that hand out over here, because if you travel over there and then try and pull it back, you're adding an extra step, which makes it a lot more difficult and actually hinders you as opposed to helps you. So you really wanna try and maintain that spin dot as much as possible, and really think about the weight of the rifle taking it around, as opposed to you pulling it around with your hand or trying to take like a scoop as a prep position. On Sabre, it's the same idea, but just a little bit different. We are trying to get to this flat position, but the weight of the Sabre takes it over on its own when we do that. If I was to release at this down angle, that's when I'm gonna have my Sabre staying over way too far on the left side of my body and almost actually hit the ground. So we wanna think about waiting until it gets all the way to that flat. And then vice versa for the angle, same exact thing as we did for rifle, making sure that it stays there, and then also being aware of our spin dot. And then the last thing I want to talk about is going to be something that I'm going to refer to as the W arms, which is this shaping right here. This is something that you want to avoid. Now, right now we are just throwing singles, but it's still really important that we are aware of this concept, because it's going to be a lot more noticeable when we get into higher tosses, as well as a lot harder to break in terms of like habitual things that we do. So we want to go ahead and just talk about it now so we can start to think about it a little bit earlier on in advance. But essentially what happens is, for most people when they first learn to toss, the tendency for them is to follow the equipment up and then back down so they can see it fall into their hands. Notice that my hand goes up to meet the equipment. I'm exaggerating it a little bit, but my hand goes up to meet the equipment before it comes down to my hand. What this does is essentially, while your equipment's spinning in the air, you're placing your hand somewhat above the equipment, and then you have to go back down and under to catch it. So you start with the hand down because you pushed and it relaxed in that down space. You bring it back up, and then you round it back around to go into your catch. That's a lot of extra steps that can cause a lot of big issues in just a short amount of time. It's a lot better for you just to keep that free arm down below the rifle or the Sabre or whatever you may be throwing, and wait until it comes to you, and then you can come from underneath and meet up with it, as opposed to going up and then back down. This one will allow for a stronger catch because you're counteracting the rotation of the equipment by coming up as it's going down, so it's gonna sound a lot nicer. But two, you're not risking all of those added factors, because especially one big thing that can happen if you bring your hands up is you can release it and then slam it down into the ground because you couldn't get back underneath it in time. So really try your hardest to keep whatever hand pushes to initiate the spin, keep it down until you go into the catch. Right there, trying to make sure that you're not doing those W arms. So now to review everything we went over in this video, we introduced the concept of tossing on weapon, essentially how to throw a single and how to catch it. We first started by breaking down all the steps of throwing a toss, starting in either that right or left flat starting position, pushing to feel the swing, going all the way through to that release point, either flat if we're at the hilt on the saber or upper angle if we're everywhere else. Giving a quick flick at the top, seeing the end of the equipment go up once on the release, up one more time in the air, and then going into the catch on the other side. Once we went over left and right flat on rifle, we went over the inverted versions as well, going over how to throw a single from different parts of the equipment, and then we did the same thing on saber as well. Once we broke all of that down, we went over some ideas in terms of making sure that you are very clear about hitting that angle position or that flat position, because that's going to determine if your equipment goes to the correct place. If you're noticing that your rifle is staying too far to the left side of your body or traveling too far over to the other side of your body, it's probably that you're not getting to the correct release angle. You're probably either overshooting it or undershooting it. And then we also talked about how the spin dot can apply to that as well, making sure that when you release, you try and stay in that spin dot as opposed to move side to side or move up and down. At the very end of this, we talked about our W arms, making sure that when we release the equipment, that we're keeping that free arm down from its push all the way until the catch, as opposed to releasing it, following the equipment, and then going into the catch. That can cause a lot of risks, such as slamming our equipment out of the air, or just not having a strong catch because of the counteraction we could have from coming underneath the equipment. And there we have it. Now we have the first steps on how to toss our weapons. I hope you guys found this video helpful and are starting to get really excited about moving up in our technical series on weapon. Anyways, if you like this video, please feel free leaving a like down below. And if you have any questions at all, the comment section is always going to be open to you guys. Anyways, I'll see you on the next one, and happy spinning.